The Sleepers, Chapter 7, Fantasy. I pulled up to Karl's house one late Saturday afternoon. Senior coursework and college prep had been eating away at our time each weekend. It was one of those remarkably hot autumn days, when everything dies and all you want is real winter, to squash the summer thermometer. "Come in!" he yelled from the front door speaker. Karl preserved formalities and customs to a fault with adults, and expected no less in return. But with me, he relaxed and always yelled me into the house. "I'm on the back deck!" 2 lemonades decorated the side table between the rocking chairs. Karl claimed the one closest to the door, just admiring the falling leaves fluttering into his yard from the nature preserve. "Sit down, John. No training today." He was so old now, as if his yellowing color matched the dying leaves. Picking up his glass, he sipped slowly before explaining why we were on the back deck. I copied his actions, happy to enjoy something cold in this heat. "Do you know why I am so irritable?" he finally asked. I wasn't sure if this was a rhetorical question or a trap, but I had plenty of theories about his emotional toxicity. Placing the cup down, as if it were now poisoned, I replied smartly, "Because of your kidney failure? Because you are lonely. Because your parents made you a sleeper. Because—" "Enough!" shouted Karl, cutting me off with a scowl. "Yes, every one of those items may justify my anger, but that's not the cause." I shrunk back in the chair and rocked it off with a conciliatory, "Okay." Staring back at the leaves, he continued, "I grew angry because of why people slept. Today the government brainwashes you with lies of how SleepFree saved the world. With the added sleep, scientists conquered pollution, hunger, and energy. With the added jobs, crime plummeted and war vanished. Do you actually know what group of people first mass-consumed borrowed sleep?" He turned to hear my answer, taking the chance to let out his suppressed cough. "The rich and the famous," I conjectured, having heard about the steep price of early units. "No, I'm asking about when sleep units became affordable," he clarified, annoyed I did not immediately know the answer. I didn't want to risk another wrong answer, but he stared expectantly in silence. I answered with subtle sarcasm and without confidence. "The scientists and great thinkers of the ages?" Karl looked close to eruption. "No! I thought you at least would have seen through those lies." He sighed, resigning to answering his own question. "Yes, there were a few scientists and thinkers, if their companies fronted the capital, and for a time these folks did tackle the world problems. But the vast majority of early clients were the laziest of the upper classes. I'm not talking about the slothful who just want to sleep all day. Those individuals eventually became sleepers. No, this was the class of lazy scum, eager to pay to waste another day." "Waste life doing what?" I asked, anxious to know what Karl perceived as idleness. "You know that when I was a kid, folks were dying from living alternate realities? They died at their computers, addicted to video games and social media. They couldn't be bothered to take care of themselves. These people must have received substantial inheritance to pay for their lifestyle, because they hired sleepers in droves. As long as they could eat and drink, they could now spend just 30 minutes to rest before resuming their self-absorbed nonsense. These gamers are still everywhere today, but not in your sheltered circles." "So you're angry because many of the first clients wasted your skill just to play games." It sort of made sense, but it didn't justify a life of grumpiness. "It wasn't the games. These consumers stole the lives of sleepers without a single contribution to society. Without any improvement, without any reward for our sacrifice. Gamers are just an example. Many more borrowed sleep to live their lives of recreation, working during the day and partying all night, whether in sports or in clubs, mostly while heavily under some influence." I nodded, beginning to understand. I may have hated Ray, but Karl justifiably loathed the whole class of society. If I couldn't end sleep-free, I was doomed to the same fate. He continued, "And despite that laziness, I could have overcome my spite had it not been for the real offenders." My curiosity piqued as his face turned to revulsion, clearly contemplating a past life. "I didn't sleep for the common client. That would be a waste of my skills. I've made a living sleeping for those with large budgets. And what did the fat wallets want? Dreams of inspiration to drive them to greatness? I do for you? No, that would have made a rewarding life. Rather, they wanted to generate their fantasies, the fantasies their budgets could not afford or create. I have been paid well in life to dream of every ridiculous flight of fancy and every possible measure of filth man can concoct. My parents encouraged it, and for many adult years I continued doing the same, happy to get rich, until at last I threw off this job in absolute disgust. Disgust at myself and at society. My teenage mind rattled with thoughts of fantasy and the life-giving power of lucidity until Karl's intensity brought me back to reality. That's why I am so cantankerous. I have spent my life watching SleepFree rise and consume America. I have watched it used for every foul and idle purpose. I have listened to your father's company and our government boast of its power and exaggerate its good. I have witnessed the worst of our society suck the life out of sleepers everywhere, including myself, leaving nothing but a rotted soul. I was once a kid too, and SleepFree ruined me. I have every reason to be bitter, but I dial back that venom to see you work a change. You may think me angry. You have no idea what I bottle up inside, because I like you and your family. We like you too, Karl, I replied, too immature to know how to properly respond to this honesty. He nodded. Good, then let's get back to dreaming. I helped him out of the chair so we could move inside for the transfer. Put on your visor, he directed as we hobbled through the door. I added a few fine details to the dream today. With that directive, his history lesson ended. I could now honor Karl even more, understanding with certainty why he behaved as he did. Clouds rested on the horizon and rose to the heavens, glorious messages of nature's beauty. They were unique and irreproducible, colors blessed by the spectral cocktail from electromagnetic rays smacking city smog. These were my clouds. They spoke to me of a city ready to rest, ready to sleep as nature sleeps, ready to change. It was the night of the discovery. But too many lights shined in the city. Too many people had no need for sleep. Sunlight fast faded, replaced by the ghostly visage of a city skyline at night. Empty buildings with empty souls. I stood on my balcony pondering the solution, the creation, the problem. Necessary months would pass before I could record success with certainty, but I knew, with the sun giving way to night, that I had found my dream. I had the drug, and it worked. Cumulus was a success. Then my dream was over, and I woke. Karl had shaken me from my slumber. Peering into my eyes, he brusquely examined my puzzled face. It's always the same, I replied, sensing his question. Of course it is. That's what we decided, answered Karl. But will it always be so? I never see the formula. I never prove its capabilities. Instead, I logically review my drug testing philosophy, rattle off the means of determining the new compound, view a dazzling sunset, and contentedly know I found the solution. Success and lucidity seem inferred rather than experienced. Karl then wisely, and with uncharacteristic patience, rehearsed the key lesson of foresight. The sunset may be less perfect, the conditions darker, the laboratory more or less unsettling. But your mind will fill the void. Your soul will complete the quest. It will happen. It will be your doing. You will make the discovery. Your journey begins here. This dream is motivation, a demonstration of lucidity. It is not an explicit rendering of that great day. Somehow I blindly believed this vote of confidence from the aging fortune teller. But why do you always include the clouds? Why the sunset? I persisted. The other dream components at least fit the motif. John, I'm a master dreamer, he chided with growing agitation. I've toppled the pinnacle of lucidity. I have few 5C peers with equal skill. I know what I'm doing, he asserted more sternly. After moments of thoughtful silence and recuperation, he continued, Your mind must assimilate my dream. Through all the obstacles and haze inflicted by the sleep drugs and mental distraction, your mind must capture my thoughts and make them your own. like casting a fishing line precisely into a faraway sea, or better yet, a tiny pond. Your mind must connect with mine and retrieve the message. Such a complex adoption is best accomplished by leaving some fields blank. I create the moments necessary for your realization, the laboratory, the testing logic, the satisfaction of discovery, and so on. Your mind paints the background, thus sharing in the creative process. Ultimately, my masterpiece becomes your masterpiece. A lucid dream for me becomes a clear reality for you, a reality in and out of the mind. So the clouds are my own, I blurted, popping the beauty of his lesson. He let my impertinence slide and nodded confirmation. The clouds would keep coming, a fantastic signal of my discovery. Karl, what was that dream? I felt like I was living your life, not mine. A month had passed. I woke from a dream unlike any of Karl's previous mental messages. The dream was void of clouds. I burst from rest, startled by a vividly real impression of Karl's life. Finding myself in his house, he had perfectly duplicated every detail, down to the number of broken blinds and the height of the leaning magazine towers. Seemed we each knew this place well. I saw, or rather I experienced, his torment over his age, loneliness, and scorn. I lived his emotional torment as I wandered the empty halls and dusty rooms. I experienced transcendent empathic transfer. I was shocked and drained. Karl was dozing again in his favorite chair at my side. Even the few minutes it took for me to download these sleep bursts were enough for his weary body to collapse. Some might have thought it strange to have an old man sit by you while you claimed his dreams in sleep, but honestly the thought never crossed my mind. He was my friend and family and mentor. Clearing his scratchy throat, he rubbed his eyes before answering. That was the danger of lucid dreaming. Unintentional clarity. The dream oracle loved cryptic responses. I patiently peered into his eyes with my best adolescent inquisitive gaze, knowing Karl intended to elaborate. You just experienced the lucid brain dump, the victory of the subconscious. Of course, this was only a simulated event for your warning, a trained master scenario. The subconscious yearns to surface, continued Karl. Lucid manipulation is unnatural. It is the suppression of eons of human development. The subconscious owns your dreams, and rightfully so. We need uncontrolled dreams or we would self-destruct. The mind craves the healing implicit in dreams. As a lucid dreamer, you have to learn to balance control and chaos. You must allow yourself to illogically daydream. I held back any questions, knowing he would scorn or ignore interruption until he finished his lecture. Instead, I fidgeted with my sleep tube, suppressing the urge to ask for clarity. He locked eyes with me and leaned forward, both hands firm to the handle of the cane poised between his legs. The lucid brain dump is the Freudian battle of conscious and subconscious. It is also the greatest risk when sleeping for others. As a lucid dreamer, we are tempted to unscramble the message. The brain transmits the signal, an image or a word, some sort of trigger intangibly connected to an actual event. In our lucid state, we decipher the image, recognizing the actual experience, and we replay in perfect form life's failures and triumphs, every inner moment from our true perspective. This heightened, interwoven form of subconscious conscious dreaming is indulgently therapeutic. In fact, it is one of lucid dreaming's greatest pleasures. But my dreams, your dreams, they are not our own. Your fathers killed that world. Disorganized dream images transfer as a jumbled, nearly indecipherable message, but lucid dreams penetrate the gray space between sleeper and client, hence our training. Without strict caution, a guild member could ruin the entire dream. For instance, consider I'm hired by an obsessive woman to dream of her for my client. She wants me to envision her beauty, her talents, whatever it takes to win over her crush. But instead of focusing, my mind wanders,
and I recall her hiring me for this illustrious purpose while in dreamland. The client wakes up not wanting the woman, but instead he's disgusted with her and her schemes.
Shock betrayed my ignorance. I had no idea about such precautions. How was I ever going to get all this right and trick Ray without messing up? And why was Karl just now teaching me this? How many more lessons did he keep secret?
Guard your thoughts well, he warned. Regular dreams are safe from interpretation, but lucid daydreams, clear, personal revelations, are perilous. They traverse the sleeper-client threshold as easily as any planned lucid dream. When your mind wanders, when your mind begins to process the day's events, you must either run away or embrace the disconnectedness. Regardless of technique, you must detach yourself from your lucid state.
Chapter 8. Confidence. Besides teaching me the intricacies of lucid dreams, Karl functioned as my proxy, untainted father. Both confidant and mentor, Karl counseled me on all adolescent dilemmas: girls, grades, and global domination. As long as he had enough energy to get up the stairs, conversations like this invariably led us to his study. Painting was a challenge, but he liked admiring his favorite art, and the lighting was particularly right. I stood staring at my favorite painting across from the window. "In 4 weeks, I submit my intended course of studies to Cornell," I said.
"What's wrong?"
Karl asked rhetorically.
"Your course is set."
My course should be set, but I am inextricably linked to Ray. He is as fickle as a shark in a stocked pond. He bites everything without thinking, leaving a destructive trail of eviscerated fish. Ray has yet to select a university, let alone his intended major. Decisions kill him. He smirked, enjoying the imagery. I continued, switching to a mocking tone while miming shuffling acceptance letters. "This college has the most prestigious sleep program. This college is offering me a full-ride scholarship in humanities. This college keeps me close enough to home to eat off the good of the land. This college will allow me to complete 3 majors in 4 years and defer declaration until year 2.
"Then quit the quest,"
Karl interjected while shifting in his seat to a more engaged position.
"I'm not gonna sit here and coddle you."
"Trust me, I know. I've been coming here long enough to appreciate your threshold for other people's problems, unless they are delightfully juicy. I wanted your opinion on how to seal the deal for Ray. He and I need to go to Cornell together to study chemistry and sleep science. It's the best program in the nation. They have, of course, accepted us, though I doubt they read the applications, and it is the best chance to complete the plan." Karl, surmising the conundrum, stated matter-of-factly,
"With your terrible lucidity skills, no way to manipulate him by dreams. You're gonna have to talk to him the old-fashioned way. Sleep-free, word-heavy."
"You've taught me words are wasteful. I have another idea that needs your expertise." I came prepared that evening, having done my homework. "With your lucidity skills," I pointed at Karl, "you could perfectly dream of choosing Cornell and studying sleep science. I have lived your dreams. They are flawless creations with the power of life beyond the sleep barrier."
"Yes, but the system won't allow you to switch sleepers. Not at least with Ray's unit," interjected Karl, discounting my plans mid-thought.
"I know, so I have an alternative idea. What if there was some way to have you sleep for me while I sleep for Ray? Essentially a double switch. The equipment is versatile enough that I could simultaneously receive your sleep signal while transmitting my own. If I could somehow record at the same accelerated rate at which I received your download, then I may be able to trick the system. Ray would receive his usual rest from me while downloading a second-hand dream from you. Given a strong enough dream signal, he would get the message." Like the sinister ruler on his dais, approving the actions of his minion, Karl applauded the plan with a slow, repetitive clap.
"I'm impressed, John. You have thought more than acted this time. There is hope in this next generation. Perhaps you are exactly the Messiah sleepers seek." "Unfortunately, your charade won't work," he continued, shaking his head. 20 years ago, the company, the guild, and the government all hired the best possible minds to pursue the same dream. The motives were, of course, very different, but the researchers reached the same conclusion. You cannot condense the recording process. Dream content and sleep enzymes decay when recorded at high speed. Many of the best guild members have pursued your concept to no avail.
Karl's typical abruptness and honesty deflated my prideful musings and the hopes to manipulate Ray into selected sleep science. What if we could play your sleep back at real-time speed while I recorded my sleep for Ray? Did they try such an approach? I asked, hoping there was still a chance. Picking up his cane, Karl used it to move a bowl of sweets from his nearby table in his direction. Chocolate was not just for apology. Chewing on his truffle, Karl commiserated.
Yes, they tried slow playback, and it failed as well. The SleepFree system developed by your grandfathers pinpointed a precise frequency for stealing rest. Like a gravity well in the space continuum, alternative approaches all lead you to the same original solution. The record and playback timing is optimal for transmission. Others simply do not work. But even if you could trick the system and defeat nature again, finding a new gravity well, that's where SleepFree's failsafe kicks in.
Oh yes, I remembered in disappointment. He continued schooling.
High-end models sound alarms when they detect new brainwave patterns, even borrowed patterns. Though the pattern approximates your own, my impression will distort your transmission, and Ray's machine will alarm. Pattern recognition is SleepFree's form of antivirus software. Thus, SleepFree has embedded their own form of insurance against sleep fraud through design and nature.
I leaned forward to look at him with the most pleading eyes possible. Then there is nothing left to do? Talk was inevitable.
No! Until Cumulus gives you the power of lucidity, you'll have to find other means to the ends. You are going to have to talk to Ray and convince him there is no other way. Speak his language, and he'll fold.
I rose to leave, and Karl handed me a chocolate for the road. His tutelage was coming to a close. The distance of college would reduce our time for mentorship, if his ailing body didn't finish the job first. I paused to ask my final questions. Karl, why did you invest so much time in me? Why are you so willing to destroy SleepFree? Despite his unfailing support, I could not understand why Karl, a man so blessed by the sleeper system, would seek to undermine it. Karl seemed disappointed I still didn't really understand, but answered nonetheless.
What I told you day one of our real mentorship is true.
He shook his head and asked,
Have you learned nothing?
I ignored this question and waited for the answer. Solemnity marked his face.
You are not the only one enslaved by sleep. I have hid from the world for years. I have used all my influence to avoid public tests and erase my name, and yet I have gained all my livelihood from one thing, sleep. When you understand why I invested in you so much, then you will understand yourself. We live and die in paradox.
I accepted the circular response with a head nod and resumed departure. Thanks, Karl. As I rose to leave, he asked,
You coming for pizza tomorrow?
I almost forgot, but I nodded affirmative. My mother now brought meals to his house, and again all three of us attended. We had come full circle.
I've ordered some amazing pepperoni for the occasion.
I wouldn't miss it. Have a good night, Karl. With that, I left him upstairs, surrounded by his masterpieces. Despite my trepidation and utter abhorrence to speak with Ray, I hoped and sensed his decision was inevitable. He would study sleep science with me. I was a parasite with no other home. I had to stay with Ray. And somehow I knew Ray would have to stay with me. Our grandfathers signed our fates in blood. Their actions rippled generations forward, stripping progeny's freedom and chaining our lives together forever. Ray would inherit the family business. The family business required the family science. Innovation imperviously protected SleepFree. Perfect business structures fail at the product level. Success is in the product. Perfect products require science. SleepFree's future presidents would know the science. Just read Desmond Matson's will. Inheritance and choice were hard-coded and decided. Visiting Ray had a tendency to mirror mandatory church service. I could meet expectations by never setting any. My family was dining at the Matson home when I finally mustered the courage to confront him. Dinner hadn't yet started, and we found ourselves in the basement. Adept adolescents know how to vanish quietly when the finishing touches for supper are required, especially when there was plenty of hired help at the house. "How's your decision on school? What's the plan?" I asked, projecting casual interest to start the conversation. The screens played as we sat distantly apart on the three-seater couch. It was as if the empty cushion was the third person in our strange relationship, an ever-silent, ever-present reminder of our divide. "I can't decide. I want to write to prove my English teacher's wrong." English was Ray's weakest subject, though he still always managed high marks. "I want to study sleep science to make you and my dad happy, and I know that's why you're asking now." He looked at me with knowing eyes as if I were his dad. "And I want to paint to fill the emptiness in my soul." Ray clearly hadn't made a decision. This would be a painful discussion. But what really irked me was his mention of painting. I hated that he too could paint. That was my talent, which I never shared or admitted. In fact, he only learned that skill with time stolen from me. "You know I received the Artist of the Year award for our entire high school?" reflected Ray. "Me, Artist of the Year. For what?" He shirked to symbolize perplexing surrender. "Anybody else in my art class deserved the honor more. Art is their life. For me it is one more hobby I am going to sacrifice for the company, for the family. I could paint or study architecture and be truly happy. And then I might truly deserve the award." He paused with exasperation, switching thoughts. "You are so lucky, John. You have always known what you wanted. You make decisive actions and never look back. I have so many choices, but my compass is busted." I did have some pity on this creature. He was indecisive and untethered. He needed ropes and lines cast by others to stay grounded, to find his way. And he was completely mistaken. Without planning, I spilled more honesty to Ray than I had in years and would ever want to do again. "Ray, it's not luck at all. My choice is easy because there is no choice. I must go on doing that which is before me. You wish your choice was clear, but I wish I had a choice." I paused, giving life to my sprouting soliloquy, until Ray interrupted. "But John, this is your opportunity. You can cut our sleep tie right here. Return to the glory days of our friendship. I release you from your service. Be free." He kiddingly mocked a king releasing his servant. I stumbled over my response, unprepared, even shocked. I can't make that choice," I responded, shaking my head. "I sleep for the Matsons. I will study sleep science, and I will work for SleepFree, our SleepFree. I will assume my father's role as he inherited his father's role. Assuming you don't fire me. Yes, I miss electives. I miss the privilege of taking art classes, and I would love to write or study history, but I'm going to be a scientist. This is the path." I was adamant and passionate on my soapbox, even if I sounded a little brainwashed. My courage intensified commensurate with my passion. I needed Ray to study with me. I needed him to plant his feet solidly on the ground and accept his destiny. For his destiny was my destiny. I couldn't fulfill my part alone. SleepFree without Ray Matson was a waste of my life. I implore you to follow this path with me. We are connected. You know it. We have come this far in tandem. We must continue the race. I started to mimic old Hollywood war movies, psyching the troop. "Let's head to Cornell," I finished commandingly, "and fulfill our destinies." Not utterly beaten, Ray persisted. "I know that's how you feel, and I know you want me to go to Cornell and be like our fathers, but you do have the choice. We may live in the shadows of our parents, but shadows don't last forever. Sunlight hits high noon. We can choose to leave each other, but that time is now. We can study what we want to in college. We don't have to study sleep science or global business. There was a time when you treasured history and literature. You could return to these subjects. I haven't given up on these dreams. I want to study these worlds and many more." He trailed off, appearing poetic and angelic in his quixotic dream to have it all. Ray's charm rested in his innocent zeal. He was truly convincing. "I wish it were that easy," I answered sadly. Before I was forced to say more, our mothers called, signaling dinner time, bursting the unfamiliar moment we had each experienced. Resolution had not been reached as we left the couch for the noisy dinner table. That night I left the Matson home unsure of Ray's decision. but blood runs thicker than dreams.